So I'll call the meeting to order. I'll read the acknowledgement of traditional lands. We acknowledge that we are on land and surrounded by water, originally inhabited by Indigenous peoples who have traveled this area since time immemorial. This territory is within the lands honored by the Wampum Treaties, agreements between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and allied nations to peacefully share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Specifically, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the Huron-Wendat peoples and the Three Fires Confederacy, Ojibwe, Odawa, Potawatomi. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture while remaining committed to moving forward respectfully with all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. In attendance today, we have committee members, Trustee McCowie, Trustee Chin, Trustee Lovell. We have Trustee Hatfield in attendance, Director Hostin, Superintendent Armstrong virtually, Ms. Malosh, and myself. Next, need to nominate and elect a chairperson for this committee. So I'll accept nominations.
I'd like to nominate Trustee McCowie to continue as chairperson.
I will accept the nomination.
Okay.
Second?
Yeah, do we need to, yes, we need to second that?
No.
Second. No, I didn't think so. Okay. Any others? Any other nominations? No, seeing none. You have
chair again. Thank you, Ms. Mooney. And thank you, trustees. We'll now move on to item E, the nomination and election of the vice chairperson. Trustee Hatfield.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Trustee Lovell. His experience with that.
Trustee Lovell, would you like to accept the nomination?
I will.
Are there any other nominations for the position of vice chairperson? Seeing none, Trustee Lovell, you are acclaimed as vice chair.
Thank you.
Item F is approval of the agenda. If I can have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Hatfield, seconded by Trustee Ching. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the agenda? And that carries. Item G, declaration of conflict of interest. Are there any trustees or members of the committee that would like to declare a conflict of interest? Seeing none. Item H is approval of the minutes for the meeting that occurred on December 9. If I can have a mover, Trustee Hatfield, and seconder, Trustee Chin. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, if I can have a approval to approve the minutes. All those in favor? At the time of agenda prep, there are no delegations. So moving on to item J, there are 5 staff reports, and I expect that all trustees have reviewed their agenda in full. So I will ask administration if they would like to speak to them, or if not, we will entertain questions from trustees. Starting with item J1, tenders and requests for proposals awarded for the quarter ended November 30th.
I can briefly introduce each report and then we'll accept questions from there.
If you like, yeah.
Okay. So these are the tenders and requests for proposal in excess of $250,000 for the first quarter of the year so far. There's 3 on there. I won't go through them, but I'll happy to accept any questions you may have.
Trustee Hatfield.
Yeah. Is on the financial services. So, I just wasn't clear. Was the WFCU the one that was accepted?
That's correct.
Sure, but I actually said that. Or unless I just missed it. I don't think it actually says that. It just said that WFCU vended some additional services, but it doesn't actually say that they were awarded.
We can add that then.
Well, so no, so that's what my question is, just to make sure.
They were the successful component to that.
And then I was going to ask that there was some. Oh, they're gonna provide some preferential rates to board employees for services. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, and how will that information go to the employees?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, we just, we had both banks, the finalists there, come in and present to the board and offer anything else that might have been outside of the initial feedback we got through the RFP process. One of the items that WFC put forward is they put forward an employee program that would offer discounted rates on things like automotive loans, possibly discounted mortgage rates. That is something that we asked RBC, and WFCU was able to provide a preferential program for employees specifically. We're right now in the process of trying to transition over to them and develop that plan. So once that plan's made available and it's finalized, it would be made available to all employees through the intranet, and the communication will go out at that time. So we're just finalizing that.
I think that's a real bonus.
We did too.
For giving them all their money, they can give us something back. So yeah, well, that was really interesting, so, okay.
And just a note on I think the rates too, were also supposed to clarify that they offered a better interest rate on our deposits,
Okay,
which was a big factor in this decision making, because as you know, the board makes a lot of interest income on the money we have in our account, so.
yeah, no, that's great. Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions, for Trustee Chin?
I have a question regarding the insurance and the Dialogue Health Technologies and Green Shield Health. I just heard about Green Shield. I don't know much about Dialogue Health Technology. And do we know them before, or because I think the insurance are quite different. The benefit, the coverage. I don't know if this is good, you know.
Through Mr. Chair, I mean, all proponents in this particular proposal process all presented products or services for the employee assistance program. So it's not necessarily insurance. It would be services provided directly to employees we had an assistance program previously with I think TELUS Health, which became something else. And these are the services previously provided by Jeep. So it's not insurance, but it's a provider that a service offered directly to employees of the board.
So this one we know them, right? The first one.
They were required to submit all the requirements under the request for proposal process, and we rated all those submissions, and they provided the best, both qualitative and quantitative, both qualitative and pricing.
If I could just add in a little bit, I'm having a hard time here in the conversation. We did go through our request for proposal process that's outlined in the board's policies and regulations. The credit union, Owens and Credit Union, does have a number of clients that are in what we call the MUSH sector, municipalities, universities, colleges, and hospitals. And I have had an experience working with them in a former role. So from the perspective of whether it's a credit union or a chartered bank, there's no issue or concern with respect to that. We had a member of the information technology department sit on the evaluation committee because that was very important from the board's perspective. And I know that there's been some questions about some of the extra add-ons that the WFCU included as part of their proposal. And while we've had those conversations, those elements are still going to be determined because we are in the process right now of just working through the transition at this time.
Are there any other questions on this? Seeing none, we can move on to J2, interim financial expense report as of November 30th. Mr. Lee, if you want into it,
Yeah, this is the standard quarterly expense report that we provide this committee. I won't go through it in detail, but I will say that that at the end of November 30th, 2025, it would appear that we're on track to achieving the revised budget. We look like indications, we go through each line and we look to see that certain percentages are met, where, for example, 30% expended in the areas that we would expect to be. At this time, we don't see any anomalies. We continue to monitor areas like supply costs, which could present a greater risk. And then there's also a separate report that shows all the additional funding, the reps that we get into one-time funding, and our progress to achieve the spending levels of those particular reps. So happy to take any questions on that report.
Trustee Atchell?
So, first can I ask, was our original budget approved yet? No, right?
Not as of yet. We haven't heard from the minister.
That's nuts. I'm sorry, that's just, in my opinion, that's nuts. So in the revised estimates, there's just a small amount that we're projecting as an increase. Well, small, millions of dollars, but the revised estimate, the expenses.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, the increase that you're referring to is the we went from approximately $1 million deficit in the original budget to $3.6 million in the revised budget. And we have a memo, I believe that's in 2 reports from now, that specifically talks about that. We can go through that in more detail. Yeah.
And we're still within our plan for that reduction,
As of November 30th, yes.
but don't ask about December 1st. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Any other questions from trustees? Item 3 of the Ontario School Board's Insurance Exchange Premium Renewal. I'll just see if administration wants to speak to it first. If not,
I'll just highlight some of the key points in this memo and leave it open for discussion, questions. So this report provides an update on the board's 2026 insurance premium renewal through OSB, which is the nonprofit insurance exchange used by most Ontario school boards. For 2026, the board's total insurance premium is approximately $152,700, representing an overall increase of about 6.6% or $53,000 compared to the prior year. So the largest increases relate to cyber and privacy liability coverage based on the threats and reinsurance costs, boiler and machinery insurance, and legal expense coverage. These increases are partly offset by decreases in the property insurance, crime coverage, and fleet automobile insurance, largely due to exposure changes such as student enrollment asset levels. There are no changes to insurance coverage levels for 2026. In 2025, the board received a significant premium from OSB, which lowered the net cost. It's currently unknown whether a similar refund would occur for the upcoming year, although we typically do get a refund. Administration continues to support extensive risk management initiatives, including safety policies, training, cybersecurity enhancements, and preventative maintenance programs, all which help manage those claims and the insurance costs. And if you have any questions.
Just one.
yeah, sure.
I didn't go line for line through the budget, but did we provide for a projected increase in the premium in our budget?
I believe we did. We would have provided for an increase.
5%. 5%.
5 and it went up 6 point something. Yeah, so we're on the mark. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That was my question. Thank you.
Trustee Chin or Lovell, do you have any questions on this report?
Oh, no.
Moving on to J4, revised estimates for 2025-26.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So I'll just highlight that this is a quite extensive memo that talks about the change from original budget to revised budget, and I'll just highlight some of those key points. So as I mentioned, we went from approximately $1 million deficit at original budget, which was submitted in June, to $3.6 million, which was submitted in the fall in December. This amount provides an update on the progress towards the board's multi-year financial recovery plan as well, which targets a balanced budget by 26-27. So the revised estimates project $536.7 million in revenue and $540.3 million in expenses, and that gets us to our $3.6 million deficit. So it's a $2.6 million increase in the deficit compared to the original budget, which is going in the wrong direction, and I'll help you explain why. So overall enrollment's a key driver to the change, of course. Enrollment increased by approximately 198 students, mainly driven by higher kindergarten registrations. Secondary enrollment, though, declined slightly due to some higher attrition projections. While enrollment growth generated additional funding, staffing costs required to meet class size and program requirements exceeded the new funding. So some of the revenue changes that generated the $2.6 million change in revenue increase was the increase in enrollment-based funding, which is core ed, additional rep program or one-time funding, and then higher interest and facility-related revenues. Here's where that change to WFCU will help us out. We budgeted for some more interest revenue. These gains were partially offset by reductions in declining enrollment, though. When we increase our projections, our funding for declining enrollment goes down, so it kind of works opposite there. Some expense changes or expenses you'll notice went up by $5.2 million, largely due to hiring additional classroom staff, including 40 elementary teachers and 9 ECEs. And of course, we had to budget for the spending that was tied to the new time limited ministry initiatives. And then, of course, we have inflationary pressures on operating costs. Our costs keep going up, so we have to budget for those in certain areas, such as, for example, the insurance. The board's operating surplus is projected to decrease from $29.1 million to $25.7 million as a result of these changes. This remains well above the ministry's minimum 2% requirement, which is the requirement according to the MyFERP as well, meaning the board remains financially compliant and stable, but it also is decreasing that surplus reserve that we have. We put a section in there as well that talks about some of the funding pressures. You'll see specifically special education, supply staffing, stat benefits, student transportation can continue to be areas of deficits whereby we have to use $25 million of funding that is non-envelope to cover those areas. So the ministry continues to not fund us adequately for those specific areas. And you'll see the section on the multi-year financial recovery plan. We remain compliant with the ministry requirements. We continue to do quarterly reporting, and we look at cost reduction strategies. That's ongoing. Given the increased deficit, additional cost containment measures will be required, though, for the upcoming budget year. And just in closing, we continue to closely monitor spending, review programs and staffing, and pursue any efficiencies possible. And updates will continue to be provided through the quarterly financial reporting.
Thank you. Are there any questions from trustees? Trustee Hatfield and Trustee Trump.
Yeah, just about our multi-year deficit reduction. So, like, how does that impact? Because the deficit for compliance is $2,600,000, and we're projecting like $5 million increase to our expenses. So how does that impact?
Yeah, it's a good point. So through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, we did see an increase moving from budget to revised budget. Our multi-year financial recovery plan was to get that deficit, that high deficit, if you recall, that close to $7 million down to eventually zero. So the ultimate goal is getting balanced by 26-27. There is a further requirement that in any given year, the budget we submit has to be under 1% of its operating allocation, which we maintain. So in submitting this, we maintain under that threshold. We still have to have it approved by the minister though, but with plans to be balanced for next year, it would seem that we're on track to do that. And since they haven't approved the original,
Yeah, so supplementary to that, is since they haven't approved the budget submission, like, do we like what the holdup is, or do we just like let sleeping dogs lie?
So through you, Mr. Chair, I'll start and then Sean can jump in if he chooses to. So we do meet with the ministry individuals. We made them aware, right, that based on revised estimates. At our last meeting, I think they probably had more questions than they've ever had. And then I think they came back to Sean after that with more questions. And didn't really say either way. They always end the meeting with, we'll take all that information and we will send it, I think they say up, which means to the higher levels, but they've never ever given any indication around. The year before, when we met with them, they did say, you know, we would expect to receive a letter from the minister following that meeting, which we did, to say that it was approved. They have yet to say that to us this time, that we would be receiving a letter, which is concerning because we're halfway through a school year already. And I think the last time we were worried, because we got it late, but I think it was January, if I recall, December, January. So we're even later now. That if the minister doesn't approve it, then what? You've already used half of your money, so you've got half the time to find $4 million.
They're gonna find that needs more attention, so.
Correct.
I mean, I felt that the board did a really good job, a tough job,
Yes.
a hard job.
Yes.
Of coming up with that multi-year,
Yes.
plan.
Yes.
And still, I know that administration is looking for efficiencies, like it's like a daily mantra. And we definitely aren't one of the worst boards in terms of our financial management. We've, I think, always been very responsible. And we responded right away when the ministry told us what we had to do. You know, we were right on it. So I don't know if they're just playing games or they just have other priorities and we aren't a concern, maybe, maybe. I don't know, but that's strange.
Very.
If I might just add, excuse me, Superintendent Armstrong, that in lieu of the not hearing anything, we simply are just continuing with the work.
Sure.
We know that we need to be at a balanced budget for the next school year.
Yeah.
We know that. So the memo does describe more on, if you see on page 32, there are still some initiatives that we are working on as a senior team to work towards that. And that's where we're going to land when we get to the budget for next year.
Yeah. Well, I commend administration for the job they're doing. I don't know what more the ministry could want of us, but anyway, I commend you all. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from trustees? Trustee Ching.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And on page 35, and the mark means that ongoing, still unfinished, right? The check mark.
Yeah.
Is that ongoing?
that means that change has been included in the 25-26 budget and revised budget.
Has been included, and it didn't written completed. That means you are still doing that, considering those aspects.
Which one specifically?
This 2025 Because the previous one completed, you mentioned completed, but some items are just a check mark.
So the one completed in the prior year in 24-25.
Oh, okay.
So those are completed in the prior fiscal year.
Okay.
And then the current year we're in, we achieved it in
It's
year.
done.
Yeah, it's done.
It's
And if
not-
if I can just help to clarify, because remember, it's multi-year, right?
Yeah,
So it started last year, this year, next
Okay.
year. So some of these were done last year, it's done, those positions have been eliminated. Some of them we put over
okay,
a couple of years.
okay. So check mark means we are not going to increase this amount, right? For the 15.5 FTE, and that's all.
So that means we have
Done.
achieved those
Yeah,
measures
yeah, are
in
we
this
going
year.
to
And we're,
continue?
no,
No.
that means we're done that
But-
measure.
So
That part, but
that
we may
part.
need to do more.
for
Like, I don't
2000
want to be misleading. We may
Yeah.
need to
So
cut more positions.
2026, we are continuing doing.
We may
this.
need to,
Oh, okay.
Right.
because we have to balance, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that got us to where we needed to get to,
Okay,
but we
Okay.
still
good. Okay,
have more. And it may come from there, but we're not there yet.
okay, good. Oh, thank you. And I have another question regarding the item 5 on this page, the bottom, and reduce unfunded social worker positions. And it said we have 2 unfunded positions which were eliminated. And how many unfunded positions we still have? Do we
14,
have a
14.
14, okay. And respectively, may I ask the question regarding the black counselor? And is that included in these social worker positions?
No.
It's not, so where are they? And because I remember it is over 1 million unfunded.
Trustee Chen, just to clarify, you're
Yeah.
reading Appendix 2, which is a summary of cost reduction measures.
For the
okay.
multi-year strategic or multi-year,
Oh, okay, it's
Multi-year
only
strategic
cost
plan.
reduction.
and that was approved by the trustees
Oh, okay,
of where the cuts would be. So we're just giving an update of what's occurred to date. Those positions were not in the multi-year financial recovery plan.
so I'm asking layman questions. Are they included in social worker? Are they
No.
called social? No,
They're not social workers.
They're not social worker.
No.
So they belongs to what classification?
So there's a Black graduation coach, which we do receive funding from the ministry specifically for.
Okay,
So we can't not do that, and we
Okay.
can't eliminate it. And then we have create your future advisors.
create a future analysis. Okay, and thank you.
Yeah.
And the last item, 8, and the reduce occasional staff budget. We don't have a FTE impact here, right? And there is no number here. Occasional staff.
That's correct. So we don't ascribe an FTE to occasional workers because they're not full-time equivalents. They're just an extra cost
Oh.
based on the number of absences throughout the system.
Okay,
So what this means is that we have reduced our budget to align with actual cost and the patterns we were seeing, and we have included that reduction
Oh.
in the budget.
okay.
So it's
Thank
not people,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
it's if someone's absent, the cost to replace them.
okay,
So we reduced that.
okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from trustees? Yeah, I have one question. I think it's clear from what we've seen, it's gonna be a tough budget season, so I applaud administration in advance for the work that'll go into that. And I know it's probably a little early, but I'm just wondering, right now, it's about a $3.6 million deficit. I think it was mentioned earlier that we're trying to get back on track. So just based on current spending trajectories, and what we've seen in the past towards the end of the year, what do we think the best estimate for the actual in-year deficit is going to look like? And what's happening right now to address that?
I can.
And I'm sorry for the loaded question.
I'll start, actually, through you, Mr. Chair. No secret, there's been a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Far more than ever, which is a substantial cost to us. Every time we're out with snow removal or salting, we know that we're going to be over budget. Inevitably, we're going to be over budget. So then we need to be that much more conscientious on reducing expenses elsewhere, because we can't not remove snow or salt. We don't have a choice in that matter, because then you get all the health and safety implications from that. So we know our goal is not to go into a further deficit over our revised estimates. So let's say if we're $1 million over in that, where are we going to find $1 million in what we already have right now, so that at the end of the year, we still come out with exactly the same deficit, unfortunately. This has been a really, really difficult winter.
I think Superintendent
Sure.
Armstrong.
Yeah,
wants to
Superintendent Armstrong,
add to it.
one to add to that. Shelley, are you there?
No, thank you. I think Director Houston, summarized it perfectly. We know that we have an issue right now with respect to snow removal. And there's the limited areas where we can try and find those cost savings, but we're certainly going to be diligent and keep working hard to identify those areas.
Yeah.
Thank you. Did have one more question. So last year, I believe we reported a surplus.
Mhm.
I guess in layman terms, does that give us brownie points for this year?
That's a great question.
So through you, Mr. Chair, well, just to refresh the memory though, so that we had originally projected a deficit of approximately, I believe it was almost $7 million. We came in with a surplus of $2 million. The difference related to one-time revenue that was not expected, or that we knew was going to go away. So I think we have to keep that in mind. Had we not have that one-time revenue, we would have been in a deficit position. Now, whether that puts us in, so the ministry looks at that and they say, we know it was one time. So if you didn't have that one time, we know you would have ended up at X. But that said, it does give us a year of having a surplus, and they look at boards in consecutive years of deficits. So if we come in at a deficit this year, we wouldn't be in 2 years consecutive deficits. But that said, we're already in a multi-year financial recovery plan with a target in mind. So it's just really monitoring the success against that target and eventually getting to the balanced budget for 26-27. So.
I'd like to just add to that. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But I might just add to that. Yeah, Sean's correct in terms of how the Education Act works, in terms of how school boards may have a deficit under the Act. But the ministry is going to look at whether our deficit is structural in nature, which they've already described our deficit as that way.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we had the one-time revenue that pushed us into a surplus, when the ministry does look at that, they say, but if you hadn't had that revenue, you would have been in a deficit anyway. It still lends itself to the narrative of the structural nature of our deficit. So work is still going to be required to adjust our cost structures.
So I think your question would be, do we get a reset? Because of that year, does it break a cycle? Because our clock was already ticking in the multi-year, there isn't a reset.
One more question, but it's a big what if, unless anybody's dealt with this in their career so far or in their experience. But we're operating with a budget that technically hasn't been approved.
Correct.
And we're currently reporting a deficit. So what's to stop the ministry from coming in and putting us under supervision and saying, well, you reported this deficit and we never even told you to operate with this budget?
So through you, Mr. Chair, I think at any point in time,
Yeah.
even if it's not a deficit.
Yeah.
We've seen in other boards that used to be, but now with the new legislation that's changed. At any time, the ministry could say,
Step in matters of public interest.
Right.
Trustee Eckert?
I was just thinking too that we've complied, you know, submitting everything on the deadlines. We're under that increased supervision for reporting, right? So we're sending everything in and, I mean, what can we do but operate under the budget you've submitted?
Yep.
And if they're just not getting around to approving it, I don't know how they could hold us at any fault there. We have to keep, you know.
Yeah.
we have to teach kids.
Yeah, right, yeah, so we're doing everything from our end, right? And if there were some big issue, I think with their budget, they would have picked up on it by now from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New quarterly reporting that we have to do, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just to add through you, Mr. Chair, we've been very cooperative.
Yeah.
We've given the ministry everything they've needed. We've met all the deadlines. And I think it's also good to look at our surplus and say we have a healthy surplus.
Yeah,
So in light of the deficit that we presented, we're still showing that we have a healthy operating surplus to address the deficit.
yeah,
There are many boards filing deficits this year.
Yeah.
So it's not just us.
And that don't have a
And
healthy
then, correct.
surplus
not any surplus,
or any,
yeah.
yes. But that can go very quickly.
Yeah,
A surplus can go very quickly.
ours has,
Yes.
from when I first started, yeah.
Trustee Lowe?
This is just an aside, because I wasn't clear. You had mentioned having received that one-time revenue that helped so much in the past. Can I just ask where that came from?
Sure.
Or what it was?
So there were some envelopes that were within the student success area and the special education area, such as the special education equipping amount and some other training amounts that we got, that if you didn't use those specific funds within the envelope, they would carry forward. The ministry got rid of those envelopes and said, you now can take that money into revenues one time in the year. So that accounted for, I believe, $3.5 to $3.6 million for one-time revenues. Another big source of it was we were, during the Bill 124 process, we were unsure if certain areas were going to be funded, yet we still had to pay those employees under the contracts. The ministry announced additional funding after a year to cover some of those costs that were incurred in the prior year. So we got a lot of extra money from one-time Bill 124 expense to cover those in the prior year, and then we had those envelopes collapse. Those were the two primary areas.
Thanks.
And they're not going to happen again.
I was just gonna say, and we're not expecting another windfall.
No.
Thanks for clarifying.
Trustee? Oh, is it your
Oh,
question? Yeah.
oh, thank you.
About the support?
Oh, yes, about the discussions that we have. And, regarding the budget, I think, it's safer for our board to know the trend of the government. And, as far as I know, the commission for the conservative is federal level, and they have announced their policy to kind of is that cancellation of the DEI, and not maybe is a different
Well,
word.
I'll just clarify. I think you're referring to the federal conservatives.
Yeah,
Education's a
I know that.
We're on
Let me finish.
revised estimate.
Yeah, let me finish.
I'm just
Yeah. And let me finish, okay? And I know it's federal, but in the provincial, and I know most of the conservatives, they are the same.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I just think that's more of an appropriate discussion for budget consultation maybe, but right now we're just discussing revised estimates. So we're just looking at what
This year.
approves the budget versus what we're
Yes,
spending with the budget. So if we can just keep the discussion on.
Yeah, my discussion is that I think because our budget hasn't been approved. And if we insisted on spending a lot of money on that unfunded EDI,
So I think
DEI, and I think it's kind of a risk for our board.
It's been approved by the trustees,
It's
so that's done.
I mean, the government,
So
they haven't
so
approved
trustee
yet,
Jim,
right?
I'll just, if you have a question or comment on
Mhm.
something in the report, we'll entertain that. But if it's an opinion outside of the decision of the trustees that's already been made, then I'm just gonna respectfully ask that we move on with the next item.
I'm just, making a suggestion that be careful, and because we need the provincial level to approve our budget.
Sure.
And there is over 1 million on DEI without any budget on that.
So,
And,
Superintendent Armstrong?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone that this budget was brought forward to trustees last June, and that it is the trustees' responsibility for the budget and to approve it. And the budget was approved with those monies for diversity, equity, and inclusion in that budget. So regardless of what the government has or hasn't done so far, this is a budget that has been approved by trustees.
And I'd also like to add that it's the responsibility of trustees to uphold the decision of the board at all times.
Yes, absolutely.
yes, and I will pass this and wait for the next item to ask, because we have to make plan for the new multi-year plan. And I already foreseen that we are insisting on this trend. So I want to ask
So
in the
we'll
next.
just table that for now. We'll move on to J5.
Okay.
Budget timelines. Administration, if you want to speak first. Or
Ken, through you, Mr. Chair. So this memo outlines the timeline and key assumptions for development of the 26-27 budget, which must be balanced in accordance with ministry requirements and the board's MIFR. The provincial budget is expected by the end of March, although timing may be delayed due to the schedule. The ministry's core ed funding details typically follow the provincial budget and will significantly influence the board's final budget. Several external factors introduce uncertainty into the process. Changes to the REP program and funding potentially. New ministry requirements such as the family resource offices and updated police clearance processes. And of course, the big one is expiring collective agreements for all labor groups, August 2026. Administration will develop the budget using conservative assumptions as usual. And those include no increase in core ed funding, conservative enrollment projections, and cost structures aligned with declining enrollment, as we've seen the trend. And of course, in mind, a balanced budget target. The budget will prioritize alignment with the board's strategic plan, student outcomes, equitable allocation of resources, and operational sustainability. It will include risk assessment, a zero-based budgeting approach, and continued identification of cost efficiencies. And administration, as part of this process, administration is recommending adjustments to the public consultation by eliminating the budget survey and the recorded presentation, and the reasons are mentioned in the memo. They have limited effectiveness. Instead, engagement will focus on targeted advisory committees, 2 public consultation meetings, and direct stakeholder feedback opportunities. And we plan that the draft budget will be presented to trustees for approval in June, with a final submission to the ministry due by June 30th, which is the typical timeline. And then if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. We'll start with trustee Happel.
Thank you. I was so happy to read that you've evaluated the budget consultation process and found that there was a need to update that. I really appreciate that. I think that's important. There was a lot of time going into things that weren't producing any value into the process. So I was really happy to see that. And I think that the going to specific stakeholders that have a legitimate relationship with our board is the way to go. So I was really happy to see that because I was concerned about the amount of time that administration was putting into activities that weren't really productive, in terms of providing input. And if I remember correctly, the 2 budget, like, public meetings that we had where public could come, I don't think anybody came. So, it's not like we don't reach out to the public, we do, and we let them know about these opportunities to come and speak at those, open, public meetings, and they don't. So, I think that this is a much better process that's being suggested here, and I really appreciate the fact that we've updated that, so thank you for that.
It's just the effort.
Yeah.
I would just like to, maybe it's a question or maybe a recommendation for administration, but in February and March, there's consultation with several committees.
Mhm.
Wondering if there's room to also add student senate in there. If the student trustees are okay with that too. Yeah. I have no other questions. Trustee Chin on the report.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have different opinions and with the chair.
Report.
Yeah, it's the report, yeah. It's on page 40, and it said we're going to cancel the survey, and because of on the page 40, a pattern was identified in which service responses were generally received from certain groups who had very specific budget concerns. For example, funding to renovate track and field facilities, higher wages for certain staff groups, reinstatement of RISE classrooms, elimination of GEDI initiatives. And the last sentence in this paragraph said, we see the budget consultation not be disingenuous. So next paragraph, considering the above, and the administration recommends changes to the public budget consultation as follows. First, elimination of the YouTube budget consultation presentation and the elimination of the budget consultation survey. I totally disagree with that. I think it's against the democracy, and it's against transparency that our board uphold. And I don't think that the public opinions should be avoided just because we don't like it or we don't think they are correct. And the public opinions has to be treasured. And if we have any, pros and cons for certain way to get the opinions, we can improve that and not cancel that, and particularly to focus on some groups that we favor. And I believe those, let me finish. I believe those groups do not represent most of the parents. And I really don't think, especially the item that the reason that you mentioned here is funding to renovate track and field facilities. I think it's important for the important opinions for the parents, but why you list it as one reason for cancel the survey?
So
I really don't think it's a good trend
let's
for
give
our board.
administration the chance to address your comments. Superintendent. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I do appreciate the comments that Trustee Chinez has brought forward. As someone who has worked through the budget survey results over the past couple of years, the challenge that we find with the survey is, for example, when people are putting in they want higher wages for certain staff groups, the school board does not negotiate collective agreements if that is a provincial item. And so when comments are raised through in that manner in the survey, those are comments that the board can't act on. What the board was trying to always seek was things that we could consider at a local level that we had control over. We also found in going through the comments that were provided, or the survey results, is that there were comments that were made that we had to redact because they either named specific individuals or they tended to include bad language.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something that it takes a lot of time and effort to go through that. Now, to suggest that we are not being transparent, all of our meetings that we have here are transparent. This report of public budget consultation is available to the public, and that's transparent, and yet nobody signed up to delegate at this public meeting to speak about anything related to the budget survey. No one from the public came forward. And when we have our public consultation meetings twice, no one from the public comes forward either at those opportunities. And what we are suggesting here is not dissimilar to what some other school boards are doing. And the number of survey responses that we get, when you consider the number of families that we serve and community members, is really not significant. So those were some of the reasons why we suggested to not do the YouTube presentation and the budget survey, but to go to specific groups and committees of the board and to move forward with encouraging families to come to our public budget consultation meetings and share their views on the budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Supervisor Armstrong.
Supplemental,
Question or comment?
supplemental. Yeah, the question, supplemental. Based on our new policy change, and we publicate the agenda on Wednesday. And the public delegate, if they want to be delegate, they have to submit their, submit their speeches before Friday night.
Mhm.
And do you think for obviously they have other jobs to do. Do you think they have enough time to read this and finish speeches to apply for being a delegate?
So keep in mind, Trustee Chin, there's also an email, budget@publicboard.ca, where the public can go and provide their input. We are a forward-facing organization, and I think that we've been incredibly transparent. I think administration and trustees go to great lengths to provide ample opportunity. We were both on this committee last year, and 0 people attended the public consultation. So whether or not the policy was not enacted at the time, and nobody came. Nobody. So to imply that we aren't being transparent, to be frank, I don't appreciate it. I think we've gone to great lengths to make sure that the community had an opportunity to voice their concerns. The committees that will be consulted are filled with people from the community, and anybody not on the committee can still address this committee through delegation or via email. And as the report suggests, administration will put together a report for the committee in May with the results of the public consultation process. Trustee Atfield.
Yeah, thank you. I had so much more for my head, and I'm not sure where I want to go. So the amount of time between the release of the agenda and the deadline for submitting has not changed for years. It's been the same amount of time. We just changed the days. So that's really unfair, Trustee Chin, for you to make that accusation that we don't give enough time. It's been the same for the whole time you've been a trustee. Been the same amount of time.
2 days. If you
It's always been that.
2 days is enough.
That's
2
always
days
been,
enough for
been that.
delegate.
it's
It's always
never been
been
any
that.
different.
Like since you've been a trustee, It's always been the
I
same.
think previously it's at the end of Sunday, they submit, but now we moved
It
on
was
to,
Friday to Sunday. It was still 2 days.
Now it's
No,
Wednesday.
So now it's Wednesday to Friday.
Right.
So it
no,
hasn't changed.
they have to submit before Friday, end of
No,
Friday.
the agenda came out on, I'm not gonna argue this, but the
Wednesday.
agenda came out on Friday and they had to, submit by Sunday. They had to submit their request and their presentation. It's 2 days, 48 hours, whatever it worked out. And all we did was we backed it up to Wednesday to give them, the 2 days from Wednesday to Friday. So it's been 2 days the whole time you've been a trustee. So like I'm
If I
concerned
can
that
just
you're,
interject, I'm just gonna, I
Yeah.
don't think this conversation is related to finance and
Right.
facilities. I think this is a conversation for policy and bylaw. So I'm gonna ask that all trustees move on.
I do have a question. What's the point of elimination, the
Just
YouTube?
one second, because I think.
I'm
Christine
not
took
done.
it up.
It's just I'm trying to correct
Yeah,
correct
yeah, for sure.
information,
Yeah.
right?
For-
So, and the other thing is that if you look at the data, the number of people who look at
YouTube.
the budget presentation information, which explains our budget process, which explains our funding, which explains everything, is so low. And so what's happening is people aren't informing themselves through those YouTube videos. So staff is taking time to create them, but nobody's looking at them. So as a result, when you put out that public survey, which again, compared to our number of staff and students and families is just not even hitting anywhere towards a reasonable number, but they aren't making informed input into our budget because they didn't look at the presentations first. So they're very problematic. So it makes sense not to invest our time in those activities, but to say that we're not transparent, like Chair McCauley was talking about, we've got 2 public consultations scheduled. We've been doing that forever. Nobody comes and nobody comes to the meetings. So I really resent being accused of not being transparent because we are, and just because we might use different tools doesn't mean that we're not transparent.
Mr. Maynard? Did you want to?
Yeah, if you don't mind, through
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Chair, I just want to add on to what Shelley said and what Trustee Hatfield was saying. Just by saying the elimination of the survey is a tool to get feedback. We're not eliminating feedback. We're not eliminating
Right.
consultation. We're eliminating just the survey as a tool of receiving that feedback. We still value the feedback. We still want the feedback, and there's opportunities for the feedback from whomever in the public wants to provide that feedback. We don't take this decision lightly in eliminating a tool to provide feedback. I will say further that in helping us to assess this decision, I ran a survey through to the Finance OASBO committee to get feedback as to how many boards are doing surveys, if they've done them and discontinued them, if they continue to do them, and what the challenges are. And it's very much aligns with what this table's saying right now. I'll read you some of the feedback I got from them. 60% of them didn't do them anymore. The 2 of the boards that didn't do it discontinued it. They had previously done a survey. Some boards continue to do it, but they put items such as limited discretionary funding presents a challenge. Ministry funding is highly prescribed, so it reduces the areas where the public suggests you have funding. I want you to put it in this area. Well, we don't have that ability. A lower declining participation, as we see. Difficulty aligning public feedback with ministry or board priorities. So these are some of the feedbacks, concerns about responses being dominated by certain groups. Their staff time versus perceived benefit. There was a lot of great feedback that helped us to determine that maybe this is a route, especially since we're in a multi-year deficit recovery plan, and our plan is very prescribed and there's minimal flexibility. In fact, we're trying to find areas to save money as opposed to finding areas to look to spend more money. And oftentimes the feedback is spend more money, which we have very limited ability to do so. So I just want to add to that. The feedback is not what is referred to as disingenuous. What is referred to as disingenuous is the process. If the process is misleading and thinking that there could be the public can submit a survey and we can do all those great things. We just can't with the funding model that's in place. So I think there that we definitely value the feedback and we value the public consultation process. It's just this particular method isn't yielding the necessary result we wanted to.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Okay, let's go to trustee Doble first, who hasn't had an opportunity to ask a question yet, and then we will.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just on that, I was just wondering, ballpark, because when I read this, I thought 282 people. I was just flabbergasted. How much was it costing us, basically, roughly, if you have an idea, to produce that YouTube and air it?
I mean, it costs a lot of our time, right, and effort.
Absolutely.
We had to develop the presentation. We had to post it. This was my time. This was Superintendent Shelley Armstrong's time. This was our media center's time tracking this. I'll be honest though, the 282, the 97, and the 174 likely represent a lot of my clicks when testing it, and Superintendent Armstrong's clicks. I'm serious. There's probably about 10 or 15 of those clicks alone that were mine, or someone within the board, whether it be Madeline testing that it's working, or media testing that it was posted properly. So we can't see where those clicks from.
Right. And I'm not thinking in terms so much of dollar value, but yeah, time.
It is time.
And that is money.
Time is money.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Chair.
I have a question. And those the April 14 and May 15, May 12, we have two public pre-budget consultation meetings. And will that meeting be public on YouTube?
Yeah, of course.
Just to correct, they're not on YouTube. They're a public meeting. You've sat through them the entire time you've been a trustee.
And normally we it's not on YouTube.
Live
Normally
stream.
we have recording after that. Not only live stream,
Live stream.
we also have a recording.
Correct.
If the people cannot watch it lively, they still can see that, right, online.
Correct.
Stream. Yeah.
It's not
Live stream.
YouTube. It's not YouTube. It's not.
It ends up there
Okay.
after,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's live streamed
Okay.
and it's recorded, yes.
Okay.
But the purpose of those are for consultation at the time, not after the fact, because the consultation is happening at those meetings.
Right.
So if I go and watch it after, it's useless.
Yeah.
Because the consultation period is done. So the goal is, and I think every single person here has alluded to, nobody shows up for them.
Oh.
So
But-
to watch it after is completely irrelevant.
But if we don't do the presentation before that, how do they know what's the budget and how do they join the consultation? Because even they see lively, they cannot, put up my hands and ask questions. They cannot. So when you delete the elimination of the YouTube budget consultation presentation, how would anybody to come here and to say something? How would they do that? Even if they watched a live, so how do they join?
Through Mr. Chair, so we post our budget on the website, and any member of the public can read the entire budget, which has more detail than would be in the public consultation presentation. These documents about the revised budget are online now and speak to all the changes that we've made in the revised budget to supplement or to update the original budget that is in the full document. Our financial statements are also posted on the website, as well as the prior year public consultation presentation that exists now. The model hasn't changed significantly at all. So we give context as to how the funding model is prescribed and how it's determined, how enrollment drives that. So that would be a good source too, to look even at last year's, because the model hasn't changed other than slight increases here and there for benchmarks for wages, for example. So the resources are there. If somebody is a member of the public and wants to learn about the budget process, there's definitely opportunities beyond that 15-minute presentation that we do. And happy to guide them to those resources.
And I'll add that the provincial budget is also available, which is our budget, right? So the province develops the budget first. Then education and each other ministry develops their budgets from the provincial budget. So the Ministry of Education, the funding it's completely transparent of what the budget is. And that's where we get our funding from and what money can be spent on and what it can't be spent on. And I'll use tracks as a perfect example. So we put out a survey to ask people, they tell us they want tracks. We receive zero funding from the government to do that. So we're giving a false pretense to people that they can put in information and say, we want tracks at our schools. We've asked them for their input that we can't give them. We can't. So then the next time we want them to do a survey on something else, they're going to say, well, why would I bother? You didn't take any of my input anyways. And that's because we can't spend money on that.
That's not the only choice of the board to erase the track. That's not.
The ministry gives us $0.
It's not enveloped money on that, but it's money on all kind of activities. You put 1 million on BEI, you don't have money on the track.
So trustee King, we're talking about the budget timeline process. We're not talking about specifics about the budget.
Continue my
Give me 1 second. Nope, 1 second. We're currently talking about the timeline for the budget, which outlines a framework for getting community consultation, community feedback to inform the budget process.
Yes.
1 second. There will be ample opportunity at 2 public board meetings, every finance and facilities meeting, via email and at the committee level for the public and yourself as a trustee to provide feedback to the board on what you'd like to see in the budget. From there, administration and trustees will work with that feedback and a budget will be developed pending approval at the June board meeting. What you're talking about right now are very specific budget items that would be best addressed during the consultation process. And I would encourage you and anyone at the community to send an email to budget@public board or attend the public consultation meetings to share that with the board. But right now, we're only talking about the timeline.
Yeah, I'm talking about this.
Nope, you're referring to ultra specific items in the budget. So we're only gonna talk about the timeline. So if you have a question or a comment about the timeline, please refer to the page in the paragraph you're talking about.
I'm talking about the
Okay,
timeline.
because the conversation you just had with the director had nothing to do with the report.
Okay, I have we have a public pre-budget consultation meeting, but before that, we are going to eliminate the budget consultation presentations, and we refer
We're
the
not eliminating public budget consultations.
no
That's not being eliminated.
presentation. You don't have budget presentation as
The
before.
YouTube video is being eliminated because it gets 1 second.
Even 200 is enough. It's a big amount of parents. They can have a lot of
So,
delegates.
1
to come.
second, 282 is views, okay?
Views, yeah, that's views. So I think
That
200
could have been the
is
same person watching.
200 is enough for us to do
So
this
then tell her to
presentation.
Support the recommendation so we can move forward.
Yes, so is there a motion on the floor for this one? Do we have to?
There's a recommendation.
I have a motion to,
Okay, 1 second, let me put the first motion on the floor. The recommendation. Oh, there's no recommendation. That's for the other one. That's for the surplus. So this is just a report for information.
yeah, I have motion to
Something arising from the
eliminate
report.
this.
So it wouldn't be in order to amend a memorandum for information. So it's just a memo.
So may I ask when can we, decide if we can, continue this kind of budget consultation presentation? I think it's important, even 200 parents watching that
So you're
can
talking
create
about, you're
it
talking about. the
over
vid-
10 delegates.
Are you talking about the video,
Yes,
the consultation presentation?
yes, I want this YouTube video as before, because the provincial government, you know, Bill
Okay,
19,
I'm gonna entertain this only to an extent.
we want to
Okay,
increase
Okay,
transparency.
just give me 1 second. It's been moved by trustee Chin to include the YouTube budget consultation presentation. Has it been seconded? It's not even in order.
Just,
So recommended.
Out of order.
It's not been seconded anyway.
That was my point. So it's not even.
In the public meeting, it doesn't matter.
Okay, are there any closing comments from administration or trustees?
So I want to make sure nobody seconded, right?
Budget timeline?
I'm asking nobody second my,
No,
okay.
so it won't even be captured.
Superintendent Armstrong?
Superintendent Armstrong, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that, the information that I'm hearing from COSBO, which is my business officers group, is that, the technical paper from the Ministry of Education likely will not be released until April 30th.
Hmm.
At best, we may get a planning memo from the ministry in March. So doing a YouTube presentation, for example, would be using the prior year's education funding formula, and I don't know. Nobody knows if it's going to change. So I'm concerned about doing something where the information is not going to be accurate
Right,
because it's being done too soon.
right.
Thank you.
But we can still do that before
no,
April
we
14th.
can't. Can I?
Absolutely, Director, you have.
I don't think you appreciate or respect the amount of work that goes into creating that video when we don't have the information to create it. So Mr. Mayhew and Superintendent Armstrong cannot go create a video right now for this year because we don't have the information from the ministry. The government is not even going back until March something.
Yeah.
So automatically the budget's going to be delayed. We're going to be lucky to get our own budgets at the end of April. Then you're asking at that time,
So what's the point?
that's
of
not the best use of my staff's time.
Yeah, so what's the point of the public pre-budget consultation?
Because we have to have
We have
some
not-
timelines in
They have
place.
nothing to refer, even if you
That's
don't,
an opportunity for the public to.
even if you don't have enough information, whatever information for the budget, you can convey to the parents. Because you are going to have a pre-budget consultation, and you said you don't have anything. Is that correct?
You're talking about two different things. A public pre-budget consultation is for members of the public, just like the groups listed above, to come to say, I would like money spent on A, B, C, and D. And like Mr. Mayhew said, they never come and say where to save money. They come and say where to spend more money. We're in a multi-year financial recovery plan. We have no money to spend extra. Anybody can come and sign up.
As far as I know.
Can I finish, please?
Okay.
Clearly outlined all the opportunities for people to come, send an email and say, I want you to spend money on tracks. I want you to spend money on building ice rinks. I want you to spend money on providing food in the cafeteria free for everybody. That is always an option for people to do that. The video outlines the budget process, which we don't know what that is, because the ministry may make changes to something and say, you're no longer getting any reps, is a perfect example. Well, we have reps this year. The government may not give money for reps next year. So we can't say to the public, we're going to do a video about reps. And then the public's going to say, well, where's the reps? So you can't do a video without having the information from the ministry. Public consultation, anybody can come at any time to share what they're not happy with about how we spend the money. But like I said, it can be very deceiving because it's so prescribed on what we have to spend the money on. There isn't a lot of discretionary funds. So then people get upset and say, we asked you to do A, B, and C, and you didn't do it.
Respectfully, can I correct one of your mistakes?
Sure.
Because based on survey and delegations, many people opposed spending a lot of money on DEI, i.e. the whatever.
Trustee Chin,
Yeah.
move on.
You don't have right to do that.
No.
But
Yes,
have
you do.
right-
Trustee
but
Chin,
You,
no,
you never.
are out of order.
Our board insisting on
Trustee
this
Chin,
for no
you
reason.
are
I
out
never
of
said
order.
DEI. I never spoke specifically
We
about
are
an area.
talking
No,
Please
about-
do not,
Sorry.
do not.
Trustee Chin.
You want me to
Trustee-
give a report next
Trustee Chin,
public
not.
meeting? I can do a
Trustee
research
Chin.
on that.
Trustee Chin, we're
What
talking
about
about the
data?
budget timeline. You keep referencing specific budget items. We are only talking about the opportunities for the public to come to the board and provide their 2 cents about what they want to see in the budget. So I'm gonna move on to new business, item K1. There's a recommendation in front of us. It's been moved by trustee Hatfield, seconded by myself. Is there any discussion on this? It's a recommendation to reallocate accumulated capital surplus from, I forget which school it was, Kingsville? No, Erie,
Your migration.
Erie Migration.
Yeah.
Trustee Hatfield.
Mike, just a comment.
Yep.
Sorry. That's it.
Oh, okay, no.
Yeah.
So we have some money going back into surplus.
Question.
For sure.
And, we have, sorry. We have some money, extra money. I wonder if we can consider putting it on the track.
So all we're doing is moving it to surplus.
Operating.
It's operating.
So is that possible to?
Mr. Mayor?
So through you, Mr. Chair, this money is unspent money that was initially earmarked for the F&E for the Kingsville build, and it is now being shifted back to operating. We had to self-fund the portion of that. When it goes back to operating, it cannot be used on capital purchases.
So is there,
It's not available for capital.
is there any other way to, not to put back and, keep, application for kind of emergency?
Not without ministry approval.
Yeah, so can we try to apply to, instead of putting back?
Deficit recovery.
So
plan.
trustee Chin, we've just talked at great length about the position of this board. And we're in a deficit. We're in a multi-year financial recovery plan. The last thing that we should be doing, in my opinion, is funding a track. Last year we had to cut positions to balance our budget. That was not an easy task. To go and suggest that we should be using the little money that we have right now to build a track or provide maintenance for a track it really is an insult to the public. Our goal and our priority is the success of our learners in the classroom, and that's where the money is going. To hire teachers for our students, to hire graduation coaches for our students, to provide resources for our students. So I'll be the first to say it. We have tracks in our board. We have great tracks at some of our schools that share use. They use it. I did track and field all the time at Sandwich. I went to Massey. So we're gonna leave it at that. And I'm gonna call the vote on this item. The whole conversation about moving this money for a track is just inappropriate in my opinion. So I'd ask you to be mindful of that. So I'll call the vote. It's been moved by trustee Hatfield, seconded by myself. All those in favor of the recommendation? And that carries.
I oppose.
Okay, that's fine. There's no trustee motion for consideration. Alright, so that has to happen before I call the vote, so there's no recorded vote. Vote passed. Item L is trustee motions for consideration. There was none. Item M is trustee notices of motion. Those are discussions for the next meeting. There was also none. Seeing no business before the committee, we will adjourn at 6:18. Our next meeting is April 14th. I hope you'll have a great night. Everybody.